Let me ask you a simple question. If a powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake hits a country like Japan, does it mean a bigger, more devastating earthquake is about to follow? Or, or is that just a fear that is amplified by the headlines? After the recent earthquake in Japan, tsunami alerts were issued, evacuation warnings were given, and most importantly, talk of a possible mega earthquake began. Now, this is where the things get interesting because whenever a large earthquake happens, people immediately assume something worse is coming. But is that how the science actually works? Today, we will break this down. That is, what exactly happened, why the fears of a bigger earthquake are rising, and what science actually tells us. So, welcome students to Legacy IAS. In this particular video, we are going to cover a very important article that reads, is bigger earthquake likely to hit Japan after the 7.7 tremor and tsunami? So, to understand this, let us first understand what actually happened. The 7.7 earthquake explained. Okay, so first thing is a powerful earthquake of around 7.7 magnitude struck off the coast of northern Japan. Now, this region lies along the Japan Trench, that is a major tectonic boundary. Now, what does that mean? Imagine two massive pieces of Earth's crust called tectonic plates. Now, one plate is slowly sliding beneath the other. This process is called subduction. But this movement is not something that is very smooth. Why? Because the friction will build up over time. The pressure will keep on increasing, and then suddenly, this happens in a sudden moment that pressure is released. What happens after the release is what we feel as an earthquake. Now, because this earthquake happened under the sea, it triggered tsunami warnings. Authorities initially warned of waves up to a few meters. But in reality, the waves remained relatively small. However, still the precautions were taken. That is, thousands of people were advised to evacuate. Emergency systems were activated. Here comes a very important point that this was a strong earthquake, but not as catastrophic one like the 2011, right? So we see that how it all happened. But now, is this a warning sign? Like, why people are talking about a mega quake? That is the real concern. Let us come to that real concern and understand this, that why are people talking about a mega quake? That is, when a large earthquake happens, it does not just release energy, but it also changes the stress distribution in nearby fault lines. That is, there is stress redistribution as well. You can think of it like this, that when pressure is released at one place, it can increase the pressure somewhere else. And this can sometimes trigger aftershocks, or in rare cases, it can also trigger a larger earthquake. Okay. Now here is a term that comes into play, and that is rare foreshock possibility. This is the term that is being used, and it happens in very rare situations. That is, what appears to be the main earthquake turns out to be a smaller event than a bigger one. And because of this possibility, Japan's authorities have issued an advisory. They said that the probability of magnitude 8 plus, that is more than 7.7, 8 plus earthquake has increased. The probability has increased. But this is where most people misunderstand. And the misunderstanding is that the earlier probability was 0.1%. That is, risk increased but still low. We are saying that it has increased to around 1%, right? From 0.1% to 1%. Now that sounds like a huge jump. but only because the base number was very small, right? So yes, we can say the risk has increased, but no, it is still not a high probability event. The important takeaway from all of this is that an increase in risk does not mean the certainty of disaster. This has to be understood from the point of view of probability and mathematics. Yes. Now, the next question, can earthquakes be predicted? Now, let us dig into science and understand this, that can we actually predict earthquakes? The answer is simple here, that we cannot predict earthquakes. Even with advanced technology, satellites, sensors, or even artificial intelligence models, we still cannot predict earthquakes. What we can do? We can only observe patterns, we can measure stress, and we can measure and estimate probabilities. What does that mean? That means that uncertainty is built into the system itself, right? Now consider Japan. Okay, on this map you can see here is the Japan trench, right? Japan lies in the ring of fire. That is the Pacific Ring of Fire that you must have read in your geography books. One of the most active seismic zones in the world. And because of this, Japan experiences thousands of earthquakes every year. Now, here is the key. The key is that most of them are small. Many even go unnoticed, and only a few major events occur. So when the experts say now, if the risk has increased, they are not actually predicting a disaster. They are simply saying statistically the probability is slightly higher. So important line here, important takeaway is that earthquakes are monitored and the risk is something that is there, but it's something still that cannot be predicted. So the final reality check, that is, what is it actually about? Fear versus reality. What should we take away from all of this? That yes, the risk has increased, but it has increased from 0.1% to 1%. And that is still a low probability. There is no confirmed prediction of a mega quake. That means a massive earthquake is about to happen. Can it be said with certainty? It is not so. What Japan is doing is important. Japan is not panicking, but actually preparing. So people are being advised to check emergency kits, review evacuation plans, and most important, stay alert. And this is where we need to be careful, because we must understand that preparedness is the key and fear spreads faster than facts. One headline, mega quake coming, and suddenly, panic takes over. But science does not work in headlines. What it works on is probabilities. So finally understanding all of this issue, just try and ask yourself, should we be worried? At a rational level, yes. But should we panic? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is what is the message of this article. And the final line that you can take away is that in natural disasters, the biggest danger is not the event itself. What actually is the biggest danger? It is about misunderstanding the risk. What it calls for and what Japan actually is doing, and that is correct move, that is call for preparedness and not a prediction of doom. If you understand this, you understand how science and risk actually work. Thank you so much.